welcome back again. Back to the Boleyn, episode 2. And this week's guest is a familiar face. You will see him on Twitter, Instagram, social media platforms. It's the one, it's the only, it's Westhamonline. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing quite well actually.
Mm.
Had two maths tests today, unfortunately, which I've got done now, and home to do this.
Well, that's good, mate. That's good. Well, I hope you can remember going back many years ago because we're going back in time to the place that we once called home and our spiritual home. But
hmm
before we get started, if you want to plug all your stuff, mate, where they can find you and all that, go ahead.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at Westhamonline. You can find me on Twitter, Westhamonline5. Instagram's my main, in terms of how big it is. Instagram is my main social media, but I'm decently active on Twitter. Um, the Who podcast on Spotify I do comes out every Tuesday and Friday or Saturday, and I'm going to be starting a channel soon on YouTube. You'll see a familiar face, Jeremy, who you saw on the old one that we tried out. He'll be on it frequently. And I'm on these shows quite a lot: Hammers Poles, Force from Irons, West Ham Unofficial, Hammers Chat, all this stuff. So everything West Ham, you're probably going to see me on.
Good man, good man. So let's start from the beginning, mate. How did it all begin for you becoming a West Ham United fan?
Yeah, it all began because my nan and granddad are born in the East End. They lived right next to Upton Park, and they were typical Cockneys like that. Yeah, they both love West Ham. I think my nan, surprisingly, you wouldn't think it with her nan, but she's been a season ticket holder for about 65 years, which is amazing, really.
Mm.
Only stopped going to away games recently because in the past couple of years because of she's getting older now. So she comes to the home games with us, but away from home she doesn't do anymore. But yeah, um, they supported West Ham. The other half of my family was supporting Tottenham because half of my family is born in the East End, the other half Australia.
Mm.
And they all support Tottenham. Um, they're all massive Tottenham fans. So basically, I had a choice: Tottenham or West Ham. Um, and I went with West Ham because the people in my family who support West Ham are more passionate about it. Um, my nan never stops talking about West Ham. Honestly, you go in her house, she's got two whole West Ham rooms just dedicated to the club. And then the people on my side of my family who support Tottenham, they weren't very passionate about it too much compared to the West Ham fans, and West Ham just seemed like more of a um, club that cared for the fan base, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And also my dad supports West Ham as well. So all of them factors came into play, and that's why I chose West Ham essentially.
Well, that's good, mate. Good. You picked the right team, other than the team that we don't like to mention. But yeah, it's good, mate. It's good. So let's start off with this question. Where was your first seat at the bowling ground, and did you ever change to a different stand?
Yeah. See, this is interesting because this is the one question. Even now at London Stadium, I always forget the actual stand I sit in. I don't know why. I just don't look out for it. It's not something I look out for. But my first
Mm.
ever seat at Upton Park was near the Chicken Run. I sat there, but it got a bit hectic at times. And at the time at Upton Park, I was only young. So we changed and sat on the halfway line. I can't remember the stand, in all
Mm.
honesty, but it was a brilliant view, I tell you. And I sat there for about 5 or 6 years on the halfway line. And yeah, that's where we sit in the London Stadium now on the halfway line. We're in the Billy Bond stand now, and it's
Mm.
brilliant. If, in all
Mm.
honesty, I really like it. For me, it's the perfect view.
the stand that you're probably on about is probably the Betway stand or the Dr. Martin stand, or as I knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the chicken run though, that was a bit hectic over there. I must admit. I
yeah.
must admit indeed. But yeah, did you ever want to like? Was there a seat that you didn't like, so to speak, or was that the only two that you sort of them two places, the chicken run and the halfway line at the Boleyn?
No, before I got a season ticket, we'd go. You know how people who don't have season tickets, they might go to 3 or 4 games a season. And I
Mm,
hated sitting behind the goal. It's just terrible. You just look through the net. It's just rubbish. So I'd
mm,
say behind the goal was something I didn't enjoy. So um, when we got the season ticket, I was happy to see that the seat wasn't too dodgy.
mm. Yeah, that's good, mate. That's good. Well, leading on to my next question, once you found your seat, what was your post match ritual for each game? What did you do beforehand and after the game?
Upton Park, me, my nan, and my dad, who went to the
Mm,
games, we'd go up to, say it was a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, for example.
mm,
We'd go up to near the London Stadium. We go near Upton Park, the bowling ground,
mm,
at about 12. And we go in this Portuguese cafe that was round the corner, and it was brilliant. Honestly, it shut down as soon as West Ham left Upton Park, which was a shame.
mm,
But yeah, right near the bowling ground, we would sit in the Portuguese cafe. They'd have the 12 o'clock game on the TV. We'd watch that. If we were late, we'd go in the Hoy in Benfleet, which is a pub in Benfleet that does pretty good food, to be fair.
mm.
And then after that, if we're still feeling hungry, we'd go in a pie and mash shop. But often we found the queues were a bit of a joke, so the
Yeah,
Portuguese cafe was the main place.
I must admit, the pie and mash shop though it was very old school. That's why everyone
Yeah,
loved it, but the queues were mental. I must admit. But do you know what? That it was like every day going to Upton Park was like it was like an event basically. It wasn't just we weren't there for the football. You was there for the whole experience, sort of thing. The start, and sort of it was like a day out, so to speak,
yeah.
but involved with the football. So yeah, it was top draw. Do you know what I mean? Where was you travelling from when you used to go to home games? Was you travelling far away or was you local?
Nah, not really. It was more. It was like a 40-minute drive. We'd drive up there
Mm,
from half an hour, 40 minutes from Essex, and we'd drive up
mm,
there. And
mm,
we parked right near the stadium. And back then, obviously, it was easier to get a parking space at Upton Park than it is at the London Stadium. So we'd park near the stadium, and then it would be like a 3 or 4 minute walk to the Portuguese cafe.
yeah, and what sort of what was it like an old sort of greasy spoon? Was it calf like the Portuguese calf, or was it more like Portuguese type food, so to speak?
Um, it was a bit of both, really. I would say it was more like you'd have quite a lot of like ribs. I'd have ribs weekly when I went in there. It was things like that. More just like a
Mm,
meat-based restaurant. And I wouldn't say it was too. The people who worked in there were Portuguese, but I wouldn't say it was too like stereotypical of the environment in Portugal. But I did
mm.
really enjoy it.
Nah, it's good, mate. That's really good. Like, it's good to remember sort of things. Obviously, people remember the bowling pub and certain pubs around the area, and obviously Nathan's and all that. But yeah, it's good to hear a different perspective on it, especially when it comes to the calf. So yeah. So moving on, what was the best game that you saw at the bowling?
Oh, this is easy. The final game. Final
Mm,
game, 3-2 against Man United.
yeah.
It's an easy pick. It might be literally almost everyone's pick, but the way it went was like it was written down, wasn't it? It was like it just had to be a West Ham win. Um, Unfortunately, we bottled it on the final day against Stoke in terms of getting top six, but still, that game will always be remembered.
Mm,
Pyatt's free kicks, deliveries, his delivery to Reed for the winner. Yes, De Gea did have soap hands in that situation, but yeah, that game had everything for me. Even poor goalkeeping at both ends. It was just hectic, and after the game was even better with all the even better and sad at the same time because you knew it was the last game. But I'd say it was probably the best West Ham game you'll ever go to.
So, excluding the final game, because that is basically what people say, is what game would you say other than the final game that you've
Oh,
witnessed?
yeah, this is a really interesting one because there's quite a few. I'd say there was I think it was 3 or 4 nil. We beat Southampton when they came to Upton Park, and at that stage we was under Allardyce and we were in a really difficult situation. We was losing weekly, and we were nearing the drop zone, and then we just went on a 4-game win streak, which at the time was shocking for the for the team we were, and we just absolutely smacked Southampton that day. And I just remember everyone was going mental because it was pretty much an assurance that we weren't going to get relegated. So I'd say that was definitely up there with one of my favourite games. Another one I'd say was when we beat Tottenham 1-0 in the final season as well. And Antonio scored a header at the near post. A night game as well. And yeah, that was brilliant. Pretty much any game in that final season at home you could have picked, really, couldn't you?
How emotional was it though? When the final whistle went on the final game, in your opinion, how emotional was it to say sit there and go, "This is it now. This is done."
I don't think I fully understood the how drastic the change was at the time. How old must I have been then? Like 6 years ago, wasn't it now, or maybe even
Uh,
longer?
5 years in May.
Yeah, so I would have been like 13. I don't
Mm,
think at the time I fully understood how drastic the change would be. I thought, oh, we're going to this new London stadium. It's going to be brilliant. It's big, it's large, it's massive. It's fantastic. I just thought, oh, great game, great season. I love Upton Park, but it's time to go. And I saw people crying all round, and my nan was crying as well, which you can actually see on the Leaving Boleyn DVD. She's on there with crying. But yeah, I don't think I fully understood how drastic it was. How did you feel at the final whistle?
Um, emotional, sad, end of an era. I felt like I didn't want to move because West Ham's always been a traditional community club, and I felt like it was being branded as something it shouldn't be really. Like with West Ham, it's always been a family community club, but and everyone sort of it's all about the community, so to speak. And going to Stratford, to me personally, it seemed like it was. I didn't believe what I was hearing from the owners. If I'm being honest, I thought they was just spinning a line just to get us there, and in a way, it was just a sad moment, mate. Really, it was like growing up there. Me personally, seeing the players that I've seen in my lifetime. Was some of the amazing experiences, amazing times, and basically for me, it was that was all gone, and we're going to go somewhere new. And it's yes, a big shiny stadium, but it's just sat in the middle of nowhere, like surrounded by buildings, and there's just no life to it, sort of thing. But so yeah, it was a sad moment. But looking back now, how do you reflect on it now, 5 years on?
I think it was a move which doesn't make any sense. I get the fact that you need a bigger stadium to attract more players, but what I think should have happened is possibly Upton Park should have been extended or built on in the same location, not moving to Stratford, which is literally the home of no disrespect to people, it's literally the home of shopping. It's the home of tourists, and that's not what West Ham is. Really, it was all capped off for me when they put London in the badge, and you might not think that's a big deal, but for me, that just told me what the owners really cared about, and that's branding. And I think that's what that stadium move was.
I agree, mate. I couldn't agree with you more there. And I think the moment they started doing that was the beginning of the end, like for people backing them and starting to turn on them, so to speak. But yeah, it was that was the moment for me. Moving on though, favorite player you see at the Boleyn?
Pyatt by 100 million miles. 100 million
Mm,
miles. Pyatt was the best, still the best player I think I've seen at West Ham. I've seen Lingard. People saying Lingard was better than Pyatt today. Lingard was not better than Pyatt.
mm,
Pyatt was
mm.
the best player by a country mile.
If you had a top three, who would be your top three players?
Hmm. Um. Well, because of how bad we were, it's going to be hard to pick pretty decent ones. So I'd go Pyatt first.
Would your main man be in there, Mikel Antonio? He was at West Ham. He was at West Ham at the
Um.
time of the Boleyn.
Uh. He might. Yeah. I'm going to go for a bit of a different shout, and second I'm going to put Winston Reid because I felt
Mm,
defensively he was the best defender we had at Upton Park for a good decade at the
mm,
Boleyn. So yeah, for me, I'd put Winston Reid second, and third I might go with. I'm just gonna go Mark Noble personally.
mm. Yeah, and yeah, obviously Mark was the captain. Um, had his testimonial there and all, like of being there for so many years. And yeah, he was top drawer. But Pyatt was a different level, mate, wasn't he? Let's be
Yeah,
honest. That was like he basically seeing a world class like top five striker at our club. Even though he wasn't a striker, he was an attacking midfielder, and he played as a number 10, so to speak. He was just phenomenal. What would you say is your best moment that you saw with Pyatt?
I personally think it was the free kick at Man United because when he scored that goal in the FA Cup, everyone thought that we had a chance of winning it, and you just heard the ball hit the post, and Old Trafford just went absolutely silent. And I think
Mm,
everyone in the stadium was actually in awe. They were like, "Wow, this guy really is." I just felt like everyone in the stadium was thinking, "Wow, West Ham really do have a top five player in the world here."
mm, I agree, mate. I really do. And what was your favourite goal with Payet at the bowling?
Um, the best one was definitely the free kick against Crystal Palace, just because it
Mm,
literally defined physics, the way that the ball bent down. Um, I think it was a bit questionable from the goalkeeper in terms of movement, but the actual strike was phenomenal. But my favourite goal that he scored at the bowling, I'd say, was his second goal his first goal in the 2-0 win against Newcastle, because that was the moment when Sky Sports and every West Ham fan started to say, "Hang on, this guy's better than we thought he was going to be."
mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We signed him from Marseille for peanuts, and really, in hindsight, we should have sold him after that season and got a lot of money
Yeah,
from him and built the team around it. And I think when he left for not even like it's a very small profit on him when we had a player there who we could have used in a way
yeah,
who could have played for any of the top teams in Europe at the time. But yeah, Pyatt for you, mate. There on the favourite player you see at the bowling.
yeah.
And the final question: the best memory of the bowling. And I know you're probably going to say the last game, but what would looking at it now, it hasn't got to be a game. It could be an occasion, a time that you went, a funny story. What is your best memory of the bowling ground?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a lot, to be fair, but I would say in the Championship 2011-12 season, when we got promoted, and I wouldn't say a game necessarily, but towards the end of the season, I just felt that the whole crowd and the whole stadium was finally behind the team and finally believed in the team. Yes, it's probably because we were playing against players who me and you could start against. But I just felt like the crowd was in. I felt like we had unity in that season. I felt like everyone believed in what was going on in terms of getting promotion. And obviously it weren't at the Boleyn, but Wembley against Blackpool capped it off for me. So I'd actually say that season was underrated in terms of returning hope to the West Ham fans. Don't get me wrong, the squad's actual quality was pathetic, but in terms of returning hope and unity, I'd say that some of the games there were certainly up there.
Yeah. Yeah. That 2012 season was a bit of a mad one, but it was just up and down, up and down. And it was like the Brighton game, I think we won 6-0, I think, if I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was one of them where we was motoring along, and then we played Cardiff in the playoff semi-final, and yeah, we was pretty decent. Do you know what I mean? And we deserved it towards the end. Like we deserved to go up, and I think that 2012 season defines us as a club now. Because I think if we don't go up that season, I think we struggle to go up in the future. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Anything that you want to reflect on, mate? At your time at the Boleyn, anything like that you miss? Like, is there anything that you miss from your time going to the Boleyn?
Yeah, I miss how easy the journey was.
Yeah.
The trains now are absolute havoc at the London Stadium, and I'm not as big a hater of the London Stadium as some people, but don't get me wrong, I hate the journey. I think it's a joke, really. But one moment I do like from the Boleyn was when Flores from Swansea went down in the 13-14 season. He went down dramatically like he'd been shot, and Sam Allardyce just stood there laughing at him. And I remember everyone was shouting when Balassi done the same when Palace came, and everyone was saying, "Oh, you Kiko in disguise." So I thought that was hilarious, and that was just a moment that encaptured the positivity amongst West Ham fans and how funny the fan base can be.
Is there anything that you wish they would have took to the London Stadium from Upton Park? Like, obviously, it's a new. Well, it's been there 5 years now, but it's still in the early stages of a new beginning. Sometimes it takes teams 20 years to get used to like something. Do you look at it now and go, you know what? I wish I could take something from there and place it straight in Stratford.
I wanna say Juventus State. I went to Juventus Stadium last year, and it was literally from the outside. It looked exactly, well, not exactly, in terms of like how round it was and things like that. It looked similar to the London Stadium, but the reason why it was so much better is just the design of it. Just looked more. It looked more like a family club, even despite how big Juventus are. And when you go inside, the pitch was so close to the stands. It felt like you were on top of the pitch. And that if they would have done that at the London Stadium and had the seats as close as they were at Upton Park, or maybe even a yard off, I think everyone would have been relatively more. They would have respected and understood why the move had happened if the seats and the atmosphere was anywhere near as good as it was at Upton Park.
I agree, mate. I agree. It's the thing that what I would say on that. I wish they would do something like with the castle. Like I wish they would make it the outside like a castle like type thing, like they did at Upton Park, especially on the new the new stand, like the Rio stand they call it. That sort of that castle vibe was brilliant, and I think they could do wonders there. And do you know what I mean? It's because I do believe, obviously, you got the crossed irons, you got the like the two ones, but I do like the castle. I'm a fan of the castle, and growing up, it was all about the castle basically. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
captured on
it's
the badge as well, isn't it, James? You see
yeah,
nowadays, not just West Ham, football clubs like Juventus, you've seen it with the badge. Although I did
yeah,
just praise Juventus, but with their badge, it's changed. Inter
mm,
Milan's badge has seen a recent change, and everyone's going for this new simplistic design, which I don't really get. And it's captured once again by what I said with the London on the
mm,
badge. People are just looking for branding now, and the only thing David Sullivan's good at is getting shirt sales. So I
mm,
suppose that's why he's
yeah.
done it.
Well, and that ending on that note, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for coming on today. If you want to plug your stuff before we wrap it up, mate, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, you can see me at Westhamonline on Instagram, Westhamonline5 on Twitter, the Who podcast, with a point between each letter of Who on Spotify, with new one coming out tomorrow, hopefully. Um, you can, well, I'll be on Hammers Polls, a decent amount, might be on later, we'll see. Voice from Irons, I'm on there, and I'm going to be starting a channel soon with someone who fans have told me they were a fan of. The Jeremy and James had their little show, so I might return something like that soon. So yeah, thank you for having me on.
No worries, mate. No worries. Well, that's been Back to the Boleyn, episode 2, and that is West Ham Online. Go and follow his stuff. He's in the know. He's on Twitter. He's on all social media platforms, and he knows what he's talking about in regards of opinions. Like, there's some opinions that are a bit mad, and some opinions are that talk a lot of sense, and he's one of them. So yeah, definitely go and follow his stuff. I will be back again very soon, and I will have another guest on to follow. The Back to the Bowling series. So by all means, come out in and check it out and give it a subscribe, and it goes a long way. Do you know what I mean? So I've been the Fat Boy. He's been West Ham Online, and we'll be back again soon. Take care.